Welcome to the program. A new ceasefire agreement's been proposed by the ruling Palestinian faction Hamas and Fatah, led by President Mahmoud Abbas. It's the latest in a series of truces, but on the ground in Gaza, the violence has taken such a hold that Saudi Arabia has intervened, inviting both sides for talks in the next few days.
Since Thursday, the inter-Palestinian clashes have killed at least 21 people, with attacks on targets previously seen as untouchable. Al-Jazeera's Gaza correspondent Noor Odeh has this report.
As explosions rock Gaza City and fires engulf two of its universities, calls for calm remain unheeded, despite Egyptian efforts to get the parties talking again. Victims continue to arrive at hospitals, which have appealed for blood donations. President Mahmoud Abbas called on Hamas and Fatah members to stop the fighting, announcing he would be willing to meet head of Hamas Politburo in Mecca to reach a solution to the political deadlock.
The
invitation for the meeting by the honored Saudi ruler is something we respect. We will meet the call for this meeting as soon as the invitation is sent to us. We are in touch with our brothers in Mecca, and the meeting will happen when we get the invitation.
The latest round of violence saw scenes unimaginable not so long ago. Hamas gunmen burning down a number of official security compounds, including a training camp for the Presidential Guard. Universities were also a target. The Egyptian security delegation managed to get Hamas and Fatah officials to meet in Gaza in an effort to put out the fires that threaten of a possible civil war. Similar meetings have been held in the past, and ceasefires have also been declared before. But all involved agree that the only solution to these clashes is going to be a political agreement. And as the sun sets on Gaza, residents brace themselves for yet another night of brutal clashes, knowing that their ordeal would only end with the announcement of that long-sought agreement. Noor Odeh, Al Jazeera, Gaza.
Let's cross to Ramallah now and join our correspondent David Chater. David, amid the latest violence, what's the mood like in Ramallah?
Well, in Ramallah, we've had a day in stark contrast to those pictures you've seen in Gaza. We had here a Friday prayer meeting in the center of Ramallah in the main square, which was called essentially for unity, and a call from all the factions represented at the prayer meeting for an end to the bloodshed, to stop the Palestinians crossing the red lines, as they call them, where Palestinians are shedding Palestinian blood. And at the same time, they've been seeking to find a new political horizon. Now, we've had the intervention of the Egyptian security team. They've tried to get a framework going on the ground in Gaza to stop these clashes. But at the same time, we've had the news that the Saudi Arabians have intervened and said that they will call a meeting on Tuesday to get together a meeting between the Palestinian president and the head of the political bureau of Hamas in Damascus, Khalid Mashal. Now, a lot will ride on that meeting. Those two men met before in Syria, nothing came of that. But this time, with the sheer scale of the fighting and the injuries and deaths in Gaza, everything rides on that meeting, on adding a political horizon to stop this vacuum at the moment being filled by the violence we're seeing in Gaza.
With the prospect of that meeting on Tuesday, possibly on Tuesday in Makkah, and of course the fresh ceasefire that's been called, are people positive or skeptical that it'll last?
Well, we've seen these ceasefires come and go before, and the scale of the violence in Gaza does weigh heavily on the shoulders of the politicians here. They realize that they must do something to try and stop this now, because otherwise that word civil war will come again to the lips of people here. Certainly in Ramallah, they are angry that this is still going on. They want their politicians to show some leadership. Now, the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas did say today that he called on all factions inside Gaza to stop these actions, to prevent the harm to the Palestinian people. And it's very clear we've seen women and children caught in this gunfire. and the death toll is still rising. So they need to get this Palestinian horizon, this Palestinian political horizon going, and the only chance of that at the moment are these talks scheduled for Tuesday in Mecca. And the Palestinian president said he will not hesitate to go there, but we've yet to find out exactly what chances this meeting will have of finally getting an agreement on a Palestinian national unity government. At the moment, the prospects don't look too good.
David Chait in Ramallah in the West Bank, thank you very much.
Continuing violence in Gaza comes as the quartet of Middle East peace negotiators meet for renewed talks in Washington, D.C. The quartet, made up of Russia, the US, the EU and the United Nations, are hoping to restart the stalled Palestinian-Israeli peace process.
Al Jazeera's Rob Reynolds is at the State Department in Washington where the quartet are meeting. He told us the latest violence in the Palestinian territories is overshadowing the talks.
It's certainly a matter of concern for the quartet members, and it lends greater urgency to their meeting today, coming against the background of this increasing violence in the Palestinian territories. And it's also really interrelated with their deliberations here, because one of the goals, certainly on the part of Condoleezza Rice, who's participating for the United States, is to bolster President Mahmoud Abbas and his Fatah faction. How are they going to do that? Well, one of the ideas here is to really provide incentives and pressure on the Palestinians and the Israelis to push them to move forward, kind of leapfrogging ahead over certain intractable issues toward a final status agreement.
A new U.S. intelligence report on the situation in Iraq has warned that inter-Iraqi violence is now, quote, a perilous threat to Washington's goals. The report says sectarian killings have now surpassed Al-Qaeda as the biggest obstacle in stabilizing the country. It comes after another bloody day in Iraq. The southern town of Najaf is under curfew after Thursday's double suicide attack killed 73.
Now, despite the intelligence report's assertions, U.S. Defense Secretary Robert Gates, speaking at a Pentagon briefing, still avoided characterizing the situation in Iraq as civil war.
What I have said in my testimony is that I think that the word civil war oversimplify a very complex situation in Iraq. I believe that there are essentially 4 wars going on in Iraq. One is Shia on Shia, principally in the south. The second is sectarian conflict, principally in Baghdad, but not solely. Third is the insurgency. And fourth is Al-Qaeda. And Al-Qaeda is attacking, at times, all of those targets. So I think, it's not, I think, just a matter of politics or semantics. I think it oversimplifies. It's a bumper sticker answer to what's going on in Iraq.
Kosovar Albanian leaders have welcomed a UN proposal that could put Kosovo on the path towards statehood. The plan, unveiled by the UN Special Envoy to the disputed province, Mati Ahtisaari, has already been rejected by Serbia's President Boris Tadic. He says Serbia will never accept an independent Kosovo. Well, Kosovo is a province of Serbia which has been under UN administration since 1999. 90% of its 2 million population are ethnic Albanians. They've been demanding independence from Belgrade. Fighting between the two sides led the international community to intervene. A NATO bombing campaign in 1999 forced Serbian troops out of Kosovo. Well, Serbia still considers Kosovo the cradle of its culture and is concerned about the rights of the Serb minority in a future Kosovan state. It's pinning its hopes on key ally Russia, which could block the plan at the UN Security Council. Well, let's now cross to Al Jazeera's Barnaby Phillips, who's in Pristina in Kosovo. Barnaby, as we heard there, the Serbian president has rejected the plan, saying that he will never accept an independent Kosovo state.
Yes, indeed, and I think that's quite a blow for Mati Ahtisaari. If he's clutching at straws, he did get a warmer reception here in Pristina, where, as you said, the Kosovo Albanian leadership, I think, is putting a positive spin on this report. It may not offer Kosovo Albanians as much sovereignty as quickly as they had hoped for, but I think there is a glimmer in their eye here. They do perhaps see light at the end of the tunnel, and they do eventually see some form of Kosovo independence. But as you said, the message from Belgrade, very hard line. Incidentally, the Serbian Prime Minister Vojislav Koštunica refused to even attend that meeting with Mati Ahtisaari, and it will be very interesting now to see what the Kosovo Serb minority do. Some 120,000